Chuck Everson has been around basketball his entire life. The man they call Mr. Villanova spans generations of Wildcats and has pretty much seen it all on the main line. And while it may be a new era with a new direction, Everson says Willard has embraced what makes this place special. We talk about the recipe Everson sees Willard writing and how he thinks the resulting meal it makes will taste for Villanova fans. Plus, we talk about who he thought looked good at practice and some areas where the upcoming season might hinge. It's a conversation with 1985 national champion Chuck Everson next on Holding Over. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Holding Nova. We are part of the Big East Energy Network. I'm Matt Janus. I'll be joined in a little bit by my co-host, David White. We are going to talk about tough, albeit expected, recruiting news today for the Cats and discuss what to expect in this weekend's exhibition. Of course, we ask you to like and subscribe, like the video below. It helps us in the algorithm. Subscribe to the Big East Energy Network. Put us in front of as many Villanova and Big East fans as possible. As much as I enjoyed chatting with David, he's going to take a backseat to a guy who helped win a national championship for Nova Nation. And we welcome in a true Villanova legend. So fortunate to be joined by the 1985 national champion and host of the absolutely incredible podcast, Big East Rewind. Chuck Everson comes on to talk about Villanova. Chuck, thank you so much.
Absolutely. How are you, Matt? Good to see you again.
I'm doing great. Great to see you. How are you feeling? Last time we talked to you, obviously you were on the mend trying to make your way back from hip surgery.
Yep, I'm getting there day by day. Every once in a while I get a curveball thrown at me, which I'm dealing with right now. So hopefully in a week or two we'll be back to normal again and keep going in a positive direction.
Yeah, part of the curveball is we changed studios on you. You're in an alternate studio. That's the reason for the makeup behind you. That's not yours, right?
No, not mine. Guys that are as handsome as I am, Matt, don't need makeup. I'm just saying. This is my daughter's office, Dr. Kathleen Everson. So, she works out of here. So she was nice enough to let me use her space.
Boy, an impressive setup and an impressive daughter to have that doctorate. And we appreciate you or her allowing you to jump in and talk to us. What an exciting time to be a Villanova fan right now. A new member of the family, so to speak, with Kevin Willard taking over the program. And, it's interesting because we talked about it a little bit the last time you were on the show, but it's been a long, long time since someone outside of Villanova world has taken over this program. And yet it feels like Kevin Willard has been here for ages. He just seems to have embraced everything. You're as close to it as anybody. Your nickname is Mr. Villanova, after all. Have you sensed that? And have your former teammates and some of the guys that you've gotten to know kind of embraced him already?
He definitely has that vibe, Matt. I mean, he said we spoke to him last night, and I say I brought Mark Plansky on as my co-host. Sonny had something going on, so Mark Plansky and I interviewed Coach Willard last night, and he says all the right things. I got to say, it's refreshing. It's no shot at Kyle, but he sounds like a coach that's got experience and everything. It's going to be different. That's all I can tell you. And I think it's going to be a fun thing to watch because we can go big, we can go small, we can go quick, we can go slow. He's got a plethora of players, young players, and he's got a nice mix of big and strong guys and some quick guys. So I can't wait to see them play.
I don't know about you, but when he first started talking about playing 10, 11, even potentially 12 guys in a regular rotation, I kind of thought it was coach speak and he didn't want to tip too much of his hand coming into the season. But the more and more you hear him talk, the more people you talk to that are at practice on a relative basis, and just the plans that you're going into this first exhibition game this weekend, it feels like that is legit. That is the plan going forward. They're going to go that deep. What's that do for a team to have that many guys in the regular rotation?
Well, then you'll be ready for anybody, really. I mean, depending on who you're playing, you can combat what their strengths are by having guys that can play different positions and stuff. I was at a couple of practices, Matt, once at Summer Jam and once a couple of weeks before. So I saw the early stages, and they played a 5-on-5-on-5 drill, and they had Arcada,
Acaden Lewis.
Arcada. Yeah, him, and Duke, and Brendan, and the Hodge, and the other. They went big, and the kid from Nigeria. They went big, and they had three guys 7 foot or bigger, which to me is a delight. I haven't gotten to see guys eye to eye since I've become an alumnus. So it was interesting. And what was nice about it is these guys get up and down the floor. Unlike, Wyatt Maker and myself that, kind of lumbered a little bit, but these guys get up and down the floor, and they do a good job. They dominated the scrimmage because they were able to kick it out to the guards and they worked it around. Matt Hodge at 6'9" is playing on the wing. He can play inside. He might play the 5 at times. He might play the 4, the 3. So it's going to be fun. I mean, they got a bunch of guys. They've got a nice mix. They got a freshman, Chris Jeffries, is jacked. I mean, I remember what I looked like as a freshman. I told this to Coach last night. I never looked anything like that kid. I mean, he looks like Superman. I mean, so he's a big, tough, strong kid. I think you're going to see a lot of toughness from this team, and I think you're going to see us get up and down the floor. I don't know how much they will press, but I think you'll see a lot more fast break points this year.
It's funny you mentioned Nico. He's 7'1". He's probably a project, the potential maybe red shirt or at least somebody that's going to get much better down the line. But he could be a gem moving forward. I know when you saw him in practice, you were especially impressed by what he might be able to bring to the table in terms of, oh wow, what he could be.
Oh yeah, he's got a big upside. I mean, if we can keep him here for a couple of years and have Coach work his magic. The interesting thing was Dwayne McClain was at practice on Sunday, and he called me up. He was so excited. He goes, Willard's out there with all the big guys, Chuck. He goes, he was killing everybody, screaming at everybody, and Nico he's going to be. I tell you what, if he gets it, and I have no doubt that he will. He's going to be a beast because he's got all the skills, and he can jump out of the gym. He's strong as hell. He's just got to get a little meaner. If he can do that, he'll be something to talk about.
Very raw at this stage, but they really are developing him. Really like what they see for him down the road. But they do have three primary bigs that we expect to see play a lot of minutes this season. You touched on a couple of them. Matthew Hodge is so interesting because obviously he was supposed to join Villanova last year. The NCAA gets involved. He has to wait a whole season. We've seen that before with the redshirt process, but it's not nearly as common now as it used to be because guys don't redshirt anymore. It's just not really a big part of the sport with the portal. You don't have to sit out a year when you transfer. People are looking for opportunities to play right away because they know they can always move on to a better opportunity if it arises. So Matthew Hodge has to go through something that a lot of his contemporaries don't, but back in your day was quite regular. What's that process like when you're kind of chomping at the bit? You've had to wait this long. You're out there practicing with the team, but now it's finally your turn to go. How do you kind of control the emotions and
Oh,
and work off the rust?
pardon the pun, but he's going to be a caged Wildcat, man. He's going to come out of this thing ready to rock and roll. He's a great kid. I've been around him a little bit. I saw him play. He played for Brian Lynch, also a former Villanova player at St. Rose. I got to go see him play in high school a couple times. He's impressive, and his brother was good too. And he came in. Was expecting to contribute. There was a little snafu there that kind of a little bump in the road. But to be honest with you, Matt, I think it's the best thing that could have happened to this kid. I think he's going to come out of this, golden because he looks like a different kid. He got a year to mature. He got a year to develop. And when you're a young guy like that, you don't want to hear those things. You don't want to hear that you could. Frankly, I could have used an extra year. I'm running around playing against John Pannone, not knowing anything, and I know I grew 2 inches at Villanova, so I know what it's like to be a young, late bloomer kind of speak. And listen, he looks terrific, and in practice, that's all anybody's talking about. So hopefully he comes out raring to go.
It was interesting to hear his head coach, Kevin Willard, the way he described him. He said he is the most incredible human he's ever coached, or at least near
Yeah.
the top of the list because he's such a good person. To hear you give his compliments, and then Acaden Lewis talking about his game. Acaden Lewis likes to think of himself as a home run hitter, and he told pretty much every media outlet over the course of last week, "I'm a home run hitter." And Matthew is the ultimate singles guy. All he's going to do is go out there, rebound, and hit mid-range jumpers.
Yeah.
Villanova's had a lot of success with guys that are willing to rebound and hit mid-range jumpers over the course of their career.
Yep, he's going to bring his lunchbox every day, as they say. And the other kid you mentioned, Eddie Pinkney loves him. I mean, Eddie is a scout with the Rockets, and he gets to watch tons and tons and tons of games, and has seen him play numerous times. And at any given moment, something exciting is going to happen with that kid. So,
With Acaden Lewis?
yeah, actually, yeah, he Ed was real impressed with him, and I think I think now I'm hoping that they get to keep him for a couple of years, so that there's we can keep some continuity with the players and not have to go get 12 guys every year. Hopefully, he likes it here and does well.
It's kind of funny because obviously you hear Kevin Willard talk about the need to get culture back and try to return as many of the good parts of what Jay Wright built at Villanova as you can have in the modern game.
Yeah.
Certainly, it is so drastically changed from where it was just a few years ago. But you've talked to Kevin on several occasions. It's more than just words to him. He clearly sees this as a developmental program. It's one of his true skills as a coach. He gets young guys, he makes them better piece by piece. And by the time their college careers are done, they're completely different players. But how do you put the culture in place? What do you think that the recipe is to be able to get these guys to get the return buy-in that's now critical to make them want to stay around and be here for 2, 3, maybe even 4 years in some cases?
Frankly, I think part of the key is the alumni coming back. The way Kevin works it, and I like his thought process. Here's the thing. You got Mark Plansky or myself or Jens or anybody from that '85 team. We come in, we're the old guys now. So coach is not going to say, okay, here's Harold Jensen, here's Mark, here's Chuck from the '85 team. Okay, so what? I wasn't even born then. But if I go over to a kid, especially a big guy, and say, "Hey, look, this is what we did, and this is how we do it. This is what we do here," that the kid listens. And it's a different it's a different approach, and I like his approach because we don't need to get the flowers anymore. We've had our time in the sun, Matt. Now it's time to help the young guys so that they can become champions and go on to do great things at Villanova.
But it is one of the special parts of the Villanova program, and it is part of the special sauce that Jay was able to make, that you play for those that came before you, and it wasn't just idle chatter. It was getting you guys in front of people, making sure that you were able to share what this program means to you, what it meant to your family, what it was able to do for you, and to
Yeah.
be able to get those message in front of young people. The game has changed, but young people, on the surface, things might be different, but at the core, there's still people. People are people generation to generation, and you can connect with them, and they buy into that kind of stuff, don't they?
Yeah, 100%. And Kevin's one of the guys who's buying. It's refreshing to hear him say, he goes, "I knew you guys had a strong culture. I've played against you guys when I was with Seton Hall. I never knew it was like this." I think what opened his eyes was Summer Jam weekend. When we had asked them to come out and meet us, we go to a local watering hole the day before Summer Jam, and he
And
came out
only
with his
water,
wife.
right? Only
Yeah,
water there,
only
right?
water and
Nothing else.
Gatorade. So,
Got to stay
um,
hydrated.
that's right. So he came out, and there was guys that played for Coach Mass. There were guys that played, before that, it went for Jack Kraft. There were guys that played for Jay. There were guys, and they were all there yucking it up and telling stories like we always do, no matter who you played for, as long as you put the uniform on. And he was like, wow, he was really blown away by that. And he's told me that several times. So I think, I think it's going to be different because he's going to put his fingerprints on his program as he should. It's his program. Okay. But I think he's going to keep the pillars all together. So it'll look different, but it'll be the same, if that makes sense.
Makes complete sense. You can hear it from him. You can hear it from alums like yourself when they talk about all the connections that he has already built in such a short amount of time. It really is
Yeah,
remarkable in that regard. All right, I let you talk about your bigs. I know you wanted to do that. I know that's a
that's
big
right.
deal to you, but
I get
this
into
is
it with
guarding
Sonny
you.
every week about that. You know that. That's
It
my
is. I know
thing.
it's one of my favorite parts about the show. It's a great dynamic that you guys have working. But this is guard you. We got to talk about the backcourt a little bit. You mentioned Acaden Lewis, how scouts drool about him, but it's a lot to be on the shoulders of a freshman. It's not necessarily going to be as he goes, Villanova goes, but as his development goes, might dictate what the ceiling is for this team. It kind of feels like, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, he's that good a player. Now, they just write about it and everything. You got to play the games too, as we all know. So you got to see what happens. There's a lot of guys that they get in the spotlight and something happens. I don't think he's that type of kid, but I do think that he's got a lot to show, and there's going to be some pressure on the kid. Let's face it. He's going to be expected now to step up. Askew's hurt, so it's a lot to lay on him, but I think he can handle it.
How big a deal do you think the Askew injury is? Because obviously he was going to play a ton of minutes, big time leader for this team. He's been through so much. Your heart breaks for the kid that
Yeah,
he can't be out there at the start of his sixth year. But for the team, it's a big deal as well because he was going to get starters minutes, but he was also going to be your backup plan if Acaden Lewis, or when, quite frankly, Acaden Lewis has those freshman moments. Because as you know better than anybody, everybody goes through them at some point.
of course, and yeah, I mean he's still contributing. He's still a leader. He still talks to Acaden Lewis, and he's communicating with everybody. He's right there. And again, the most important thing, not to sound like Jay, but he's got a great attitude, and that's his thing, and he's going to contribute any which way he can, and hopefully he'll be back by the Big East season when we start up the Big East.
Not to go full Dana O'Neill on you, but you got to get everybody's perspective on that. It's the buzzword around Villanova. The players still talk about it, even though it's kind of a new regime in charge. To you, what does that represent when you talk about attitude of a Villanova basketball program?
To me, it means you go out and play your hardest all the time. You got to be tough. You got to be able to take charges. You got to have the right attitude. Coach Mass would say the true character of somebody comes out during times of adversity, and that's having a good attitude. And listen, it's easy to be smiling and high fiving guys when the ball's going in the basket for you all the time. What are you going to do when it doesn't go in, and how are you going to contribute to continue to play Villanova basketball? Without maybe scoring points, maybe you can rebound, you get an assist, you set a pick, you do all the little things that you wouldn't normally do. Um, it's all of those things, and again, I would describe it as being tough, on defense, tough on the boards. We've exhibited that, throughout Jay's 20 years and through Coach Mass's and Steve Lappis's time too. I mean, we've always been known for our toughness, and I think that's all part of it.
Had to do it to survive in the old Big East, got to have it to survive in the new Big East. It's the beauty of this conference, and the program really is so emblematic of what it has meant to these players and how it's been so successful over the years. Okay, you mentioned the injury to Devin Askew. If he's not out there on the floor, you're talking about him still being a leader. How do you do that? How does that impact how you can mentor younger guys when you're not out there in the proverbial battle with them?
Well, you're at practice every day. I mean, you're working on rehabbing your injury too, but you're at practice every day, and it's very easy to go up and put your arm around a guy and say, "Hey, look, man, this and this, or maybe try that. You're doing good with this," and it's different coming from a player, and the player is your brother basically, so you can tell your brother bad news and good news, and you can give it to him straight. He's not going to be bamboozled by the coach that's just constantly kissing his fanny. That's not the way to do it. You have to have the truth so you can fix what's quote unquote broken, right? So that was one of the things I liked about our guys, and the 16 and 18 team is I can go up to anybody on that, even to this day, and say, "Hey, look, what are you doing? and they understand, and they can do that to me because that's how close we all are.
Part of Villanova playing a little bit bigger this year, not just the frontline guys that they have at their disposal. Well, they've got a couple of legit swing players. You talked about the D train earlier. That was obviously one of the big things he brought to the table for your team back in '85. Well, you've got a Zion Stanford and a Malachi Palmer, two big guards with guard skills, but they have better size than that. What's that do for a team? And what do you think those guys might be able to do for this year's group?
Well, again, they attack the basket and they get after it, and they're tough kids. In the practices that I've seen, they've gotten after it. I mean, and you didn't even mention Perkins yet. So he's a guy that was on the team last year, and he's one of the guys that came back. Him and Matt Hodge, but he's the only one that actually played minutes. Matt was, of course, redshirted, but I think he's going to be a big key into what goes on too, because he's a guy that's been through the battles. Some of these schools that these kids went to that are coming here from Grand Canyon and from other places, this is the Big East, man. It's go hard or go home. So hopefully they're up to the challenge. It looks like they are from this early age, this early start, but I think that would be key to the whole thing is to if these guys can contribute like that, early and often, I think we'll be okay.
It's almost like you're a host or something because you're so good with the segues. Chuck Everson is the host of Biggie's Rewind. You mentioned Duke Brennan and his background at Grand Canyon. He's a guy from a smaller school, but played some big time games. I mean, they made a couple of NCAA tournaments, made a run a couple of years ago. That was one of the things that specifically Kevin Willard talked about in terms of his toughness. It is different though, still stepping up in level, but does that big game experience, you feel like maybe that will make the transition a little bit easier for him?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's had some games, like you said, that, playoff games and things of that nature. So he knows. But again, until you play in the Big East, you don't know. It's different. It's a physical conference. It still is. The game is not as physical as it was back in the 80s and 90s, but the conference itself, you still have to come after it. You still have to have that Big East energy, Matt, and and so hopefully they bring it. I mean, I think they will. I mean, they've been beaten up against each other for a long time. And at that point, it's funny because October 15th was the first day of practice. These guys have been playing since probably June, with, they're allowed so much time on the court. And so they don't do the preseason conditioning. They've been playing, which is wild. But it used to be October 15th was the day. And then when you beat up on each other every day, you get tired of hitting the same guys or, scoring or whatever on the same guys. So I know everybody's looking forward to Sunday and getting after it against VCU. And especially when there's a familiar name on the other side of the bench, which is kind of cool. The Martelli brothers will be there.
It is very cool to see that for sure, and also just to see exhibition basketball back as well. How crazy kind of is that to see it because it was for so long a part of the thing. I'm sure you played against Marathon Oil or somebody back in your day, right?
Sabona. Yeah,
Yeah.
they played the Sabona. And listen, everybody gets some run in there because he's trying to figure out, matchups and he's trying to figure out combinations and things like that. Yeah, so it's gonna be good. And I think we have two exhibition games, right?
Yeah,
So
one on the
and
road and then this one at home.
yeah, so I tell you what, it's gonna be fun, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens.
Hey, last thing you mentioned, Coach Mass, and what he meant to you. Obviously, it goes without speaking. We talked about that in the last time you were on the show, but I kind of just popped into my mind. How many times does Massism or one of Coach Massimino's sayings run through your inner monologue over the course of a day, a week, a month?
It's funny. I hear two voices, especially when I coach and work with kids. I hear Coach Mass and my dad. And if my dad was my number one influence, Coach Mass was 1A. He's right there with my father. And it's funny because when we're on the phone with any of the guys from that team, inevitably, something comes out. And it's funny because I tell you what happened on the 30th anniversary when Northwood came in to play the Wildcats, and everybody was mic'd up. Well, it coincided with Coach Mass's 80th birthday. So Mrs. Mass came up with the idea of we wanted to get all of Coach's expressions and put it on a big like frame. And Harold Jensen's group designed this thing. It was a picture of him in the middle in a basketball court, and we had so much fun. We even called Jay, "What's your favorite Rollie expression? What's this? What's that?" So and we had them all on there, and we had a great time with that. And everybody got their own smaller copy of that,
That's
which
cool.
hangs in my office to this day.
What are some of your favorites? What sticks out most from that one?
The operation was a success, but the guy died. Um, that means we ran the play, but we didn't get the job done. We didn't score. We didn't score the basket. I'm trying to think. He had so many of them, and it depends on the occasion. And we would, and even ones that we broke his chops about right up till he came out and said it's an honor and a pleasure for me and my team to be the national champions of the nation. Really great, and everybody teases him. Everybody teases him about that. So yeah, there's a lot of them though.
And it's funny, the mark of a good teacher is when they just kind of come to you subconsciously, when they're there in your daily life. They're like
Yeah,
you don't even think of them necessarily as teaching points. They're just lessons that you've embodied over the course of
yeah.
your life, and that's what Coach Mass meant to so many people. And it's so cool to hear how much reference you and your teammates still have for that great man and somebody that meant so much to this university and this basketball program. Just great stuff.
I tell you one more that comes up all the time, and it comes up when I'm talking to my kids too. And this is so he would call you, hey, you're a do nothing, Everson. Well, I put you in the game. What do? You don't dribble, you don't shoot, you don't pass, you don't score, you don't rebound. You do nothing. Don't be a do nothing. So that's something that works for no matter what you do.
That really is. That's universal
Yes.
life advice, no doubt about it. Hey, you've got a busy time coming up on Big East Rewind. You're really starting to kick this thing back in gear. Another season starting. You've been doing this for a while now. How many years you guys been at this?
This is our fifth season. I can't believe it. We've got over 170 shows now, and it just keeps on rolling. What's funny is we were sweating about how do we get guests for the show because we're doing a guest every week. It's never, very rarely is it just Sonny and I that do the show, and all of a sudden the phone rings and Harold Presley's got a bunch of guys. Hey, this guy wants to come on. This guy, okay, bring him. So, so it was great. We have Tom Hoover. I'm sorry, Tom Hoover coming on, who was one of the first African American players at Villanova, and his story is incredible because he played during times of segregation. So we talked about that. He also was Wilt Chamberlain's best friend, and he was the tour manager for Richard Pryor.
Wow.
And this is amazing. And he worked for the New York State Boxing Commission, and his first assignment was the Joe Frazier Muhammad Ali fight at Madison Square Garden. He was in Joe
Oh,
Frazier's corner for that
wow.
fight. And
Wow.
the stories were incredible. And not only that, he's 85 years old. He's full of energy, and he works with the former players. He helps them get on their feet after basketball and get to their second career. He also works a bunch with the kids. He's never around. It took me weeks to get him to get a spot in his busy schedule where he can actually join us. So I'm looking forward to that. And of course, Coach Willard too is we just talked to him last night. That'll be on in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks from today. So it's been fun, I have to say. And I told you this before, the relationships with the players that you played against is phenomenal because everybody has gone through a similar experience. The only difference was the color of the jersey that you wore.
The crazy part about your show that I think so many people connect to, and the reason why it is so beloved, not only do you talk to guys that maybe hadn't thought about in a few years, and it's great to catch up with them, you go deep into their backgrounds and their lives. And it really is, if you ever watched that show that NFL Films did for so long, A Football Life, where you
Yeah.
just learn so much about a guy over the course of the 45 minutes. That's what you guys do on a much simpler and easier to digest way. You don't have to string together thousands of interviews. You just let them tell their story. And I think that's what makes it fun. Is that what you enjoy about it most, getting to know
Yeah,
guys?
yeah. It's funny you said that because, sometimes you want to change it. And I keep saying no because that's what everybody talks about. Who knew Willie Glass from St. John's used to go down to the park, all right, at his house when he was a kid to watch his older brother play. His older brother uh, comes back with a guy who was thirsty. He lived 5 minutes from the park. His mother's looking at the guy, doesn't know, like, wasn't sure who she's seeing. It was Marvin Gaye who was out playing ball with. So these are the stories that you hear, and you go, "Oh my God, there's so many good stories." That's the best part about that. We could write a book from all the stories just from the show.
A compilation, a written oral history, so to
Yeah,
speak, would certainly be a good one. Hey, let's not put that out publicly. Maybe you can save that. That might be a good idea for you.
yeah, man. Yep, you might be
Chuck,
right
we
about that.
appreciate. Oh, I can see the publishing rights right now. Chuck, we really appreciate you taking the time to do this. We're
Of
looking
course.
forward to the season. Hopefully, we're going to be able to catch up periodically to kind of talk about these Cats because I know you're as locked in as any former alum. You love this team, love this program.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, you know where to get me, Matt. Anytime. It's my pleasure. Love the Big East Energy Network, and I love Holy Nova. So anytime.
Well, we certainly are happy to hear that. It's a great pleasure for us. And make sure, I know most people that watch the show already do, but check it out. Big East Rewind. It's right here on YouTube. We'll have a link for it in the episode as well. Chuck, appreciate it. And go Cats.
Go Cats.
Always so much fun to catch up with Chuck Everson. Just a truly special guy, David. You talk about people that love this university, and the list is long. Love this basketball program. The list is even longer. But no one, I think, combines their love of Villanova basketball, Villanova University, and people like Chuck Everson. Just a fun guy to talk to.
I mean, it's always great to have people around the program, alumnus like that, who are not only invested in the program, but have the championship pedigree to talk about what it's like to go all the way. So, I mean, his experiences, his love of, like you said, love of the university. I mean, I'm sure that is irreplaceable. And I'm sure Kevin Willard loves him being around the program.
By the way, the sweatshirt, Delaware Law School, you served as a judge earlier today on the Big East Energy Network and the women's basketball show, the Big East Beat. And I thought it interesting. There was a lot of blowback for you in that episode. I heard the words corrupt judge mentioned several times in the comments.
I mean, everybody, this is America. You all have the right to be wrong. I am obviously right. So keep it coming.
The episode, we will link to it here as well, of course, but it does feature prominently David's decision as a judge with the Villanova women's basketball program. So please check it out. It was a fun one to do. Brian Webster, myself, and the honorable, I can't believe I'm saying this, the honorable David White, who's sporting his Delaware law sweatshirt, just to be sure everybody knows that he's got that law degree that you see in the background behind.
Yeah.
How about the exhibition this weekend? Very exciting. We've got some actual basketball that we're going to be talking about very, very soon. And with as many new pieces as Villanova has, it's going to be good to see him hit the court.
Yeah, I mean, we've been waiting with bated breath for actual basketball so we can stop saying, I don't know what he's going to be. I don't know what he's going to do. We're actually going to see guys on the court. You're going to see, I'm sure, Willard's going to play almost everybody off the bench, and you're going to get to see a whole lot of different combinations on the floor at one time, and it's going to be fun to watch.
And it's going to be tricky to gauge, too, because this is a team. I mean, at this point, Chuck said it when he's at practice. He's watched the way that they're going about it. Kevin Willard said it. Everybody you've talked to that has gotten to a practice, that especially have gotten a VIP look inside of practice, the former players get to be down there on the court and kind of hear everything up close. It's not just for show. It's not any kind of a smoke screen. He's going to play a lot of bodies. But the combinations that we see this weekend against VCU, they might not necessarily be the ones that we see once the regular season starts. They might be. I would think at this point he's still auditioning and tinkering and playing with pieces. And these exhibitions can kind of give him a gauge of who's going to work together under the bright lights. You know who works together in practice, whose skill sets fit together. But while an exhibition isn't a real game, it has a lot of the same feels, and you kind of get a better sense for how it's going to work when the ball gets rolled out for real.
Oh, for sure. I'm sure Willard has what he presumes is going to be his starting lineup going into the year, but you have 8 or 9 guys that you're thinking, where do the pieces fit? Who is not just going to be a starter, but more importantly, who's going to be my closer down the stretch? Who is going to be in the game at crunch time? All of those things are going to play out. We're probably going to see some combinations where they go small, some where they try and go bigger, see what works best for them, especially defensively, where obviously Kevin Willard is going to emphasize the defense. So being able to get down and guard is going to be huge for this team and for what Kevin Willard wants to do.
Well, I know one of the combinations that you are looking forward to seeing is if they go with Zion Stanford and Malachi Palmer out there at the same time in the 2 and the 3, and then whether it be Acaden Lewis or someone else running point. But you like the idea of that bigger backcourt to go along with inexperienced but talented big guys up front and to play a little bit bigger than what we've seen from Villanova in years past.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I love big wings. We talked about it in basically every show. But it's going to be really up to Stanford and everybody to show that they have the ability to get downhill, to come off the screen, to make the right decision if a defender comes over and hit one of the rollers or one of the bigs who's popping. So that will be really interesting to see is just their decision making on those ball screens.
And also remember this, the Andy Reid philosophy is in full effect for whatever happens on Sunday. It's always true, but never more true than in an exhibition setting. It's never as good as it looks. It's never as bad as it looks. If it's a disaster, if they get run off the floor by VCU, are we going to be concerned? Absolutely. Are we going to talk about it? Sure. And we're going to dissect it every which way. But we will keep in mind it's not a game that counts and they were not necessarily playing to win. Same thing runs true, though, the other direction. If they come out and are knocking down 40% of their threes, look great, all the open looks go, they're getting open look after open look. Acaden Lewis is beating people on the open floor. There are things from that will translate to the regular season. It's a great sign, but it doesn't also mean that you're going to hit the ground running and they are going to BYU in Vegas in a few weeks.
Exactly. Win by 40, lose by 40, you're still 0-0. The fact of the matter is that, Kevin Willard's looking to win. He's going to run a lot of stuff that he's planning to run during the season, but he's going to also run a lot of stuff that he doesn't know whether it will work or not. He's got to see what does this look like against somebody, again, that's not our practice team, that's your best 5 against my best 5 to see, do these plays work? Can we execute this? What can we do? I'm sure we might see a little man versus zone. What does he want to do? Where are players in the best position? All of those kind of things. So you never know what the plan is going to be, even coming out of this exhibition game.
The one thing I'm interested also is to see if there is any pressing. I don't know really either way whether that means that it will be there or not be there come regular season time. But I think before the Devin Askew injury, there was a thought that there would be some full court pressure. Now with a little bit less depth in that backcourt and a younger backcourt on top of it, do you want to go full court press? That's a question that will be interesting. So will he try it in exhibition time? You would think this would be an opportunity to kind of roll it out there. How does it look if he tries it? It gives us an idea, but I don't, again, necessarily think if he comes out, and I don't anticipate this to happen, but if he's out there pressing, every other trip, they're not going to be that type of team come the regular season. If they don't press once, better chance that means we're not going to see a ton of full court press, but they will have it in the repertoire come regular season. So it's that kind of things where you're going to get the feel. You can get a sense of this is what they're going to do, but you can't take it for gospel coming out of this.
Yeah, and I think pressing is going to be a lot about who's on the floor. If they're going big, obviously you have a better shot at pressing, you have a better shot at trapping those corners. But the other thing that we have to think about is this exhibition game, the film is going to go to BYU. How much does Kevin Willard want to hold back on what he's going to run? Because BYU has no idea. This is his first year here. This is an entirely new team. They have no idea what he's going to do. That might be one of his biggest advantages in these preseason games is there's not a lot to scout. You can look at Maryland, but this is obviously a different team with different players. You can watch film of all these guys and their previous stops, but again, who knows if that's going to be the role they're playing at Villanova. So maybe there's a little gamesmanship too in holding back some stuff from actual competition when the games start counting.
Well, the thing that also is a little bit interesting about that, the parallel is to football. There's two things about football that have, in the modern age, made preseason football unwatchable. Obviously, the injury concerns. The guys have gotten so big, so fast. It was always a concern, but now they're also worth so much money that nobody's risking anything in preseason whatsoever. And then because football is so film dependent, you just see the most vanilla, basic game plans week in, week out in preseason to the point where if you don't have a 5-year-old like I do, I don't understand why anyone would ever spend money to go to a preseason game. He doesn't know. Well, he knows it doesn't count, but he doesn't know they're not doing the full offense and everything. He's just happy to be at the stadium and enjoy himself. So that was fun. Everybody else, I'm looking around being like, why are these people here? And then you remember that alcohol exists, and suddenly it comes into fruition. This should be different. Even if he doesn't want to show his full hand, and there are things he's going to hold back, no doubt about it. No. They're not going to run all the different wrinkles that you go, probably more basic sets. The basic sets in your system in basketball still can translate to a very watchable game. And matter of fact, it might make it even more watchable. It might make it harder to figure out what we can take from it coming out the other side. But it will be a fun watch because that's the fluidity of the sport. It's not quite as game plan dependent as football is.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be an exciting game to watch. And the fact of the matter is, most of those preseason football games, you're trying to figure out who's actually going to make the 53-man roster. So it's guys that you're not going to see, where we're going to see guys on the court that are going to play all year. And we're going to see where they fit, what they do well, what they don't do so well, where there's room for improvement. How they can play off of each other as well.
That's a good point. And what the individual capabilities are when you get into game situations. We know what it is in practice. We do what it was at their previous stop. But under Kevin Willard's principles, the thing that will be in place are all the small things, the footwork that he's been harping on. Ball fake defense, ball fake offense, all of those things that we have seen him talk about and preach about over and over again. And then, of course, pick and roll. I mean, they're going to run pick and rolls. It's such a staple of Kevin Willard's offense. They might not run all the complicated second and third options that you have off the pick and roll, but they're going to run pick and roll over and over again. So you're going to see, as you said, how guys work together on that, how the timing is with that, and who has the ability to kind of read and play together and play off of each other, which I think is the biggest question mark for this team coming into the year. We know what the guys' individual skill sets are. We know how theoretically they could mesh together, but it's the timing and the intangibles that they've worked on together that we're going to get our first peek at.
Yeah, I think the intangibles are going to be the big thing. How much have they gelled? How much do we see a missed rotation on defense? I mean, turnovers are we're seeing where guys just aren't on the same page. All of that stuff, I think, is probably going to be more important than the score and the plays that are being run. It's, are we on the same page? Can Acaden Lewis run this offense? Is he controlling the tempo? Is he getting everybody in position where they need to be so that the offense can score?
What a great quote, by the way. It was in the Inquirer story this week. He said it to several different outlets last week when he was addressing the media, but it was a good one. You know, Kevin Willard talking about Matthew Hodge, about how he's the best person that he ever coached before because he's such a best human that he's ever coached before because he's such a tremendous person. And they asked Acaden Lewis about that, and he said, no doubt about it, Hodge is the real deal in terms of a legit person. But then they also asked him about what kind of a basketball player he is. And, you know, Acaden Lewis had spent the time talking about how he's a home run hitter. He looks for the home run. He wants to make the spectacular pass. He's so good at making the spectacular play in the open floor. Matthew Hodge is Mr. Singles. You get him the ball, he makes mid-range jumpers. He goes, he rebounds the ball, and he does both on a loop over and over again. And you just get the feeling they really like playing with each other. And that was something that I think was music to every Villanova fan's ears, because that is the tandem that if they can do something special together over the next 2 seasons, that's how Villanova gets back to, if not, you know, the Final Four stage, that's how you get to a second weekend of the NCAA tournament. You have 2 pieces with those type of skill sets that play well together, and this could be our first look at it this weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, not just Hodge, but you're going to be looking at the bigs. What happens when there's a double team, and are the bigs expecting the pass from Acaden Lewis? Because I think they're going to be, he's a good passer. There are going to be times where he threads the needle, and are they fumbling it? Or are they expecting that pass is coming? He's going to find me in the right spot to lay it up. Those are the kind of things that you're really looking for.
You know what else we'll get a piece or a taste of, and this is an interesting question for you. VCU is kind of that tweener program, right? They're
Mhm.
one of the best in the Atlantic 10. The Atlantic 10, a clear step below, even 2 steps below the Big East. Clear step, I would say, behind the American Athletic Conference. They would disagree with that. They'd say they're on par with the American Athletic Conference, but I think it's outside of your Power Four. Big
Mhm.
East is right there with the third and fourth best conferences. And then there's a big gap and Mountain West. Then there's a little gap and American Athletic. And then there's a
Are you
even smaller
suggesting that
gap.
the Mountain West is not on the same level as everybody else? The
Yes, that is.
national media has been telling me that for years.
I think the only people that think that the Mountain West is on the same stage as everybody else, the same platform, unfortunately, are the people whose opinions matter most, and that's the tournament committee. No one else seems to believe it. The tournament committee and Joe Lenardi and his analytics are the only people that seem to buy into it. But the point remains, they are still a really good program. They are
Yeah.
not a Northeast Conference program or a Sun Belt program as good as the Sun Belt has been in terms of mid-major basketball. So the guys that are moving up a level, a Duke Brennan and a Bryce Lindsey, of course, being at the top of the list, how do they respond to this situation? Because I know you've been talking about it all offseason long. It's a big jump that they're trying to make.
Yeah. I mean, it's because VCU, you figure they're going to challenge for winning the A10. They could be a tournament team and a pretty good tournament team. I think the top of that league is still solid basketball. So I think Lindsay, it's going to be normal competition, I think, for them. So they should be able to feel their way in a little bit. It's really going to be that BYU game and going into Wisconsin, going to Michigan, those games where you're really going to see, hey, are you ready to play big time college basketball?
And it is not just the debut of Kevin Willard, a name that is very familiar to Villanova fans. Certainly, they were longtime rivals with the elder Martelli, and now they will be there for the major college basketball debut of the younger Martelli. Phil Jr. got the job. He left Bryant, taking over at VCU in the offseason. Got to know him very well during his time as assistant coach at Delaware. He is a truly special human being. Everything they say about Phil Sr., Phil Jr. is and then he's a little bit less showboaty, which, I mean, for someone like me, I appreciate that. I find Phil Martinez Sr. a very funny guy. I know he is a nice person, and I know he has a heart of gold, but he is a guy that likes himself and likes to really highlight all of his accomplishments, and he has plenty of them. Phil Jr. is kind of guy that lets his accomplishments speak for himself, but he has all the same personality traits outside of that as his old man. He's funny. He's good people, and you root for somebody like that. And of course, if you're a Villanova fan, you're not rooting for him this weekend. You don't really care whether Villanova wins or loses. It's not a big deal long term. But winning is better than losing, right? I mean, it's obviously when you have a scoreboard, you always want to end up with more points. But it is cool to see Phil Jr. out there and making his debut in a spot where, I mean, the Holy War, I know he was on the other side of it, but it mattered an awful lot to him during his time as a player at St. Joe's.
Hey, if John Madden were around, he would say, you play to win the game. Whether it's an exhibition or whatever, you're going out there to win. So, obviously, we want to see a win. But I think more importantly, I want to see the team compete. I want to see them look like they're on the same page. I want to see what Kevin Willard's vision for the season is.
One other thing I want to see, and this is a person, Chris Jeffrey. You know, so many people thought Jeffrey was a project and a guy that had a chance maybe to earn his way into the rotation by the end of his freshman season. I still think that probably was the game plan until Devin Askew's injury. But the guy, everybody you talk to, he has really gotten stronger. Chuck Everson, we just talked to him, and he shared with the audience as well. But off mic, he was even more emphatic in his praise for the way he's transformed himself in the weight room, and he has a chance to really be in the mix. They're looking for minutes to spell Acaden Lewis and to have a plan B at that point guard position. How does he perform on this type of stage against a team with good guards like VCU? I think that's the one you want to see if Acaden Lewis's magic translate to the college level for sure. But right there below it, to me, is can Jeffrey be a real option to spell and play a bunch of minutes at the point guard as a rookie?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think if we're going through the season and Askew is playing 38 plus minutes, you're not feeling real good. Those are just a lot of minutes to put on a body. So somebody has to come in and gets 10, 12, 15 minutes a game just to be able to give him some breathers. So, yeah, I mean, obviously he's transformed himself. He's looking better on the court. We'll just see what that looks like against different competition.
But Freudian slipped by you. You wish it was Askew, right? If he hadn't been injured, Lewis, obviously,
yeah,
referencing. But it's so
Lewis,
true
yeah.
true that you say that, because Askew was the guy that was supposed to be playing those minutes, and now you're looking to fill that void, and Jeffrey's certainly somebody that could do it. So it'll come up on Sunday. Everybody's looking forward to it. It's at the Finneran Pavilion. It's a home chance to see the Wildcats. So I know people will get out there and be there. Last thing for us in this edition of Holy Nova, had a viewer call in, ask a question. By the way, everyone thought you are a psycho for your food poisoning hypothetical. We'll leave it at that.
Sorry, you all live in fear.
You can go back and watch our last episode, the one where we talked about the recruiting situation, and that's what we have to wrap up with here. We had some feedback about why or how big a loss is this for Villanova not landing Foster. He made the decision that we were all expecting to go to Pittsburgh, and you know it's a guy that you wanted. Obviously, that type of athleticism, they don't grow on trees, so to speak. But it is, I think, something that the staff had seen coming over the last couple of weeks. They had gone from really good position, probably a 50-50 shot, to had then become kind of the second banana in the race. And when it all wrapped up, I think they probably finished third behind Pitt and Texas A&M. It's not the end of the world. In that episode that we just alluded to, we talked about two other guys that they can land and be okay with. They have young size on the team this season, but you alluded to it in the last episode, David. They've got to start to get some of these big names on the recruiting trail to build momentum to land other big names, whether it be
Yeah.
in the portal next offseason or in the class of 27. You got to start to hit some of these big names.
Yeah, I mean this one in a vacuum is not the sky is falling, the sky is falling. But if we keep seeing misses on players, on guys where you're in, yeah, it's at some point it's going to get to sky is falling. I think that, like you said, the writing was on the wall that he was going to choose Pitt. So it's not one of those situations where anybody really felt like, hey, there's a real shot here. At least I didn't. But I think that the staff is going to be okay. You gotta land somebody soon for that class of 26. And then, like I said, focus on the portal, focus on the class of 27, where Willard will have a full recruiting year at Nova instead of starting by recruiting guys at Maryland and then coming to Nova and saying, okay, well, now we're here. It'll be a full year talking to people, bringing guys on campus to see the facilities, talk to the coaches, all those kind of things. So I think next year, one or two of those bigger 4-star big name guys, I think Willard will land.
And you're still in really good shape with two pretty highly regarded guys, Adam
Mm-hmm.
Umidush and Luca Foster. You're getting closer where you need both, to be honest.
Yeah.
You're in pretty good shape to get both. You have to get one. Not getting both of those guys, now all of a sudden you got some red flags out there of why isn't this translating the way you thought it would? What are you going? It's not panic time yet, but it starts to be, what are you going to have to reevaluate to start to land these type of players, especially when you're talking about wanting to be a developmental program that keeps guys for multiple years. The easiest way to do
Mm-hmm.
that is to get them from the start.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't land both, like I said, you got to get one. And if you get one, the portal is going to look like you got to get a bunch of guys from the portal. If you don't get any, you're completely building from the portal, which isn't the way that I don't think that's the way Kevin Willard wants to build a team for multiple years for guys. So, like, you need at least one of them to shake out. Hopefully, both. Then you add some good pieces in the portal, and you can kind of develop a team that way. You know what? I don't want to see another season where you're coming into the season with 9% of your offense returning.
That's the other thing. It gives leverage to your returning roster when you try to
Yeah.
re-sign them. If you don't have any big names coming in the recruiting class, but now when guys are starting to think about, do you stay? Hopefully your culture is strong enough, and then you have the funding in the revenue share and the NIL to be able to make competitive offers, but you don't want to be held hostage because they know, oh wow, they
Mhm.
really, really need me. This isn't a case of they want me. They need me. That is, everybody knows in negotiations, a lot of smart people in the Villanova family, that you have to be negotiating from a point of strength, and you get weak real quick if you don't start to land any of these guys. All right, exhibition basketball is coming on Sunday, and then Big East Media Day on Tuesday. We won't have a show on Tuesday, obviously, because it's Big East Media Day. We'll be up there. I'll be up there in New York. And if we put out a show on Tuesday, which is our day of the rotation, it become obsolete right away. So we'll be back with you 1 week from today on Thursday. We'll talk about everything we saw at Media Day. We'll talk about the exhibition game as well. Going to be fun, Dave. We might even pop on. We're trying to organize, see if we can pop on live after the exhibition game. We're working on the logistics of that, but certainly we will have something for you on that exhibition game. But David, always fun. Thank you so much.
It's good talking to everybody. Go eat food that may give you food poisoning. Just do it.
Just terrible, terrible advice. I don't know. To this edition of Holy Nova, please like the video, subscribe to the Big East Energy Network. For David White, I am Matt Janis. We will talk to you very soon. Go Nova. Enjoy the exhibition game.